Yo, what is up? Today's video, we're going to be talking about the truth about spot reduction, right? So there's a lot of myths going around in terms of fat loss within the weight loss community, about how weight loss works, people be advertising falsely so that certain workouts, if you do this amount of crunches, you'll burn the fat in your belly, you'll burn that stubborn belly fat. If you do curls like this, then you'll burn that stubborn arm flab. If you do this, then you'll burn that stubborn back flab. That is not a thing. Okay, burning spot reducing fat, I think, is one of the biggest myths or misunderstand. I don't know, like misunderstandings, myths, misinformation just spread within the weight loss community. This idea that you can target fat through you target areas of fat through specific exercises is just not a thing. That's not how it works. Now you might be wondering, well, wise guy, if it doesn't work like that, then how does it work? Well, luckily for you, that's what this video is about. So how fat loss works. Fat is think of it as your skin. It's this big organ that's all around your body, right? And when you eat things, you gain, well, when you eat in excess, you gain fat. So basically, how fat works is that your body needs energy to do things. Everything that you do takes energy to do. And where do you get that energy? Well, you get it from the food that you eat. Now, everyone has what's called NEAT, non exercise thermogenesis, something like that, which basically is the amount of fat that you burn without doing anything, right? Without doing anything extra, let me say, without exercising and all that, just living your day to day life, the amount of fat that you burn, the amount of energy that you use, sorry. So you get that energy from food, and when you eat over the amount of energy that you need to maintain your normal state of doing when you're doing nothing extra, then you start gaining fat, right? Because humans, we were evolved for survival. And back in primal days, there'd be periods where there'd be no food, right? We'd have periods of prosperity and then periods where there's like famine or it's just winter, so there's less food. And the way that we figured out to survive that is that when we're in the good times, we eat in excess, we eat more than we need, and our body stores the extra energy for when we're now in like famine and stuff, which is the fat that you have on your body, right? Fat is just stored energy for later. Now, beforehand, before we had things like commercial farming and making the world suitable for us instead of adapting to the world, that worked, that made sense. You go through the period where you'd lose the fat because you'd actually be using it. But now that's no longer an issue, but we still have the mechanisms from when it was an issue. And where that becomes an issue, I said it 3 times, where that becomes an issue is that you'll keep on gaining more and more excess energy, stored energy, to the point where it's no longer beneficial, it's just detrimental. And that's why we have all this obesity issue right now. But I'm getting a bit off topic. So how it works is that you gain fat holistically throughout your body, right? When you eat food, your fat doesn't just store in your tummy, or it doesn't just store on your chest, or it doesn't just store in your arms or on your legs or something. It stores all throughout your body. Think of your fat as a singular organism, right? So when you gain fat, let's just say you eat enough to gain a pound, right? You don't just gain a pound in your tummy. You gain a pound, that pound is spread throughout your body, right? And you gain a pound everywhere. Now, where people might get a bit confused, I don't know where the myth came from, but maybe it was like a misunderstanding of how this works. Where people might get confused is that genetically speaking, you are prone to gaining fat in different places, right? That's why some people look better at higher body fat percentages than other people, right? Some girls, they can get fat, but like they still have a hourglass shape. It's just a fat hourglass shape, but that's just because where their fat is stored, right? They'll have fat stored in their hips and what's it called? Maybe like their back or something, but not like in their waist area. So they'll kind of form that hourglass shape regardless of how fat they are. It's why some guys, they can be at higher body fat percentages and still have abs because they'll be storing their fat in other places, right? They'll be storing the fat in their legs, maybe in their back, but they'll have abs even when you might be at the same body fat percentage, but you don't have abs because you store more fat in your tummy, right? So not in your tummy, in like your waist. So that's how it works. Everyone distributes fat differently. It's why like guys are more prone to dying of like organ related diseases because males in general, we tend to store fat more in like our waist region. And the issue with that is that that's where our organs are. And fat isn't so good for our organs. So that's where the confusion could come about. I'm just making a speculation. But that's how it works genetically. You store fat in different ways. That's not how it works when it comes to losing fat. When you lose fat, when you start, getting into a deficit and taking energy from the stored energy of your body takes it the same way that it stores it, which is holistically. So when you lose a pound, you don't just lose a pound from your tummy. You lose what's it called, like, point something from your arm, point something from your back, point something from your legs, point something from your tummy. You lose all around. So that's why like weight loss sometimes takes a while to be like visible, because since your body's like taking from everywhere, the changes tend to be like minuscule. If you are only losing from your tummy, then like it would be way more noticeable. And then there's the level of like, similar to how you store fats genetically speaking. Some people store it more in certain places. Genetically speaking, you also lose it faster from different places, right? So as much as I say your body puts on fat holistically, it doesn't holistically lose the weight, right? Some regions will lose weight quicker than will lose fat quicker than other regions, right? But that's purely that, you can't do anything about that. That's not like exercise based. That's not, oh, he does like sit-ups like this, so he loses more fat in his torso quicker than me because I do squats like this, so that's why I lose fat in my legs. No, that's genetics, right? Me personally, I lose the place where I noticed like my fat loss the most off the bat was my arms, right? My arms started looking more, it's like this region, so I noticed like my shoulders started having like lines in them when I'd flex, and like my arms would have more texture and stuff. Genetically, I lose from my arms first, well, like more from my arms first than like my torso, like more my sides, my torso, and then legs take a bit longer. I notice legs and like torso take a bit longer, but like that's just genetics. That's not like any special exercise that I'm doing. That's not any like special food that I'm eating. Some people, sometimes I think there's also some confusion because they're mixing up fat loss with like loss of bloating, right? They'll be like, oh, if you eat carbs, you'll get fat. But it's like, when I stopped eating carbs, my tummy shrank this much. And it's like, no, that's not like fat. You were just bloated because, from all the water that you're storing, from the types of carbs that you're eating and stuff, you were just bloated. So now the water weight is like releasing. So it makes it look like you lost a lot of weight, and you did lose weight, but like fat wise, you're still as fat as you were before, you're just not bloated anymore. But yeah, the point of the video is spot reducing fat is not a thing. You don't spot reduce. There's no special exercise that will, get rid of the fat in your belly. If you're struggling with the stubborn fat, that just means that you just need to be in the deficit for longer, right? You just need to lose more weight, and eventually the fat that you're looking to be gone will be gone. The only like, I would say exceptions, but it's not really an exception, but it's like visually speaking, if you're losing a lot of weight, then there's a chance you might be mixing up fats with just loose skin, right? That's also a chance that you might like need to take into account. Is the stubborn fat that you're talking about actually fat or loose skin? Based off of, everyone has their own experience of like where they're coming from and stuff. Where it could just be loose skin, or it very much just could be you're not as lean as you think you are. You gotta. That's probably what it is too. You just think you thought you had an idea of like how you'd look at a certain weight, but as I've said in one of my previous videos, but I might need to reiterate in the future, your idea of how much weight you need to lose is very off, right? You have an idea of how much you need to lose based off of, you know, how lean you think you already are and where you think you're going to lose fat and stuff. But like you probably need to lose double the amount of weight that you think you need to lose. I mean, no, maybe even triple. You know, I thought I was gonna be jacked and have when I was like 94 kgs. I thought at 85 I was gonna be jacked, have abs, all that. And then I got to like 79 and I was like, yo, like my abs, you know, I'm lean now. I'm leaner, but I don't like have abs yet. Like, am I gonna need to be pushing to like 73? Say, you know, like you find that out as you go. But my point is, are you sure it's like stubborn belly fat? Or is it just you're not as lean as you think you are? And the other areas where you still have fats that would show it's not just your belly fat, are just areas you don't pay attention to, right? Maybe you get really lean in your back first, and you still have, you know, fat in your tummy and your legs, and like some in your arms and stuff. And you're thinking, oh, it's just the belly fat, but it's like you're just not paying attention to your legs being fatter. So yeah, spot reduction isn't a thing. Don't let yourself be tricked by any fitness influencer that's lying to you about, you know, do 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 crunches to, you know, burn that stubborn belly fat. Don't let any of them lie to you. That's just not how it works. Yeah. Anyway, hope this video was informative. You know, I hope it helped you in not getting scammed and not wasting your time on like stupid solutions. You know, the secret hack that no one shows you. You know, I hope it helps you realizing that spot reduction very much isn't a thing. I hope it was educational. You know, if you like the video, leave a like. If you want to say something, leave a comment. You know, subscribe, share it with your grandma Josephine, with your pet dog Christopher. You know, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.